Hey, this is Luke, Leicester City Down Under. Welcome back. I'm just going to bring in my main man, Anil here. How you going, mate? All right?
I'm good. What's up?
Good, good. We were just talking before we went live. We were already getting excited, so we thought we better go live before we start talking about everything and not record it. Um, Neil, we've had a bit of time to calm down, relax. Bit of a meltdown from a lot of people online. Understandably, a little bit so, but as the video says, the title says, we are still top of the league.
We are, which is good. And I think if you'd asked us all at this point in the season, from the start of the season, would we take it? I think 100% we would. So I think for that reason, everyone can be pretty confident. I think there is definitely some kind of meltdown, but although it might be overreactions in some corners, I think, to be fair, I think there are some genuine concerns that are coming up right now. Which is specifically that we're not scoring enough goals, which I think is a fair point. Because like I'm quite big on data. The reason I'm big on data is because a lot of people like to say, oh, football, it's a game of opinions. And whilst that is true to some extent, it's like an opinion is just that. Opinions like arseholes, everyone's got one, right? But when you look at like the underlying data, the data can let you tell things that are like more accurate or not. And, the thing with Leicester is that in the last couple of games now, the XG, so the goals that are expected to score, is quite low. So the thing is that if you drop points, that's always going to happen. Even the best teams in the world drop points, right? Argentina just got beat by Uruguay at home last night. If anyone who's watching the video, and they're the world champions, right? So these things can happen. But the thing is, if it's one of those where like the keeper has a worldie and you're peppering the goal and you just got unlucky, that's fair enough. But when it's one where you haven't really made that many chances, so with the Borough game, to be honest, I think we were unlucky to lose that game because though Borough played well, they basically scored an absolute beauty of a free kick. Fair play to Sam Greenwood, fantastic strike. They did have chances, but if you look at their XG, it wasn't like sensational either. But the thing is Leicester, although we did have some great chances of Mavadidi and Nacho hitting the post, it wasn't one of those where, like, so when we played Sunderland and their keeper had like 4 world-class saves and was like, keeping the ball from going in. It wasn't really one of those, right? And so, okay, that's okay. That can happen in a game. It's 46 game season. Some games are not going to be smooth. But then what was the previous game? The previous game was against Leeds. What was our XG against Leeds? Again, we didn't really look like scoring. Okay, fair enough. What was the game before that? QPR. QPR, we did win that game. But again, wasn't the smoothest performance. It took a screamer from Harry Winks. The Sunderland game, okay, we won that game. Okay, their keeper did make some great saves, to be fair, but we did feel like we were hanging on. So there does seem to be a kind of like repeat story here. And I think what's a bit concerning is that, like, if we like split the season up into the international breaks, sort of like the very first half, the very first segment, we looked a bit like getting away with it, but Enzo was just bedding it in and, understandable. Then the next window, we were fantastic. That's really where the streak started. We smashed Southampton. We really looked like we picked it up and it was looking good. We continued that on the next international break, going on this amazing winning spree, looking really good. And it looked like of all of the Premier Leagues that had come down, that Leicester had sorted themselves out the fastest and the best. And it was this unstoppable juggernaut. And that's where we we're all sitting there going, posting Enzo, steamrolling the league, HMS pissed the league, etc., etc. Now, though, with 2 losses and in a row, and to 2 of the other good teams in the division, now we're starting to look down rather than up. So there is like a bit of a concern. And I think, you actually asked me before the Borough game, privately, what did I think? And I said, I actually felt we would drop points. The reason I felt we would drop points, I felt that like the players did look tired and that like they were in dire need of like this break that's just kind of come up. So that could help. But, then I look at it and I think, for example, so yeah, let's look at like the criticism. So I think some people just don't really like Enzo's style in the sense that it's like very, very patient. I don't have a problem with that per se, but I can sort of see where they're coming from in the extent that like, so I think the Borough game is like a good example where when you make an opportunity, you do look to make this like a really good opportunity, like for Iheanacho or Mavadidi, but you don't make that many of them a game. So what it means is it does rely upon your players being quite clinical. Look, to be fair, at the same time, with the style of play, because we control it so much, we don't give the opposition too many chances either. So there's like the balance. But that's why, for example, in recent games, we're getting more like narrow results, either a narrow loss or a narrow win, rather than kind of like absolutely battering a team. which is what different styles of play. Whereas if you look at Leeds, to be fair to them, Leeds are a team that are definitely capable of blowing anyone away because of their style of play. Right now, maybe that will mean that they drop more points over the course of the season. They've dropped more than us so far. But, maybe we need to be a bit more aggressive and, be more prepared to have more attacks. I don't know. I don't think Enzo's going to change it. So, we're just going to have to kind of get used to it. But I could see that criticism. And I think the other criticism you could say of him is that his game management, I think, has started to lack. So there's been a lot of games where he hasn't made that many subs, or he hasn't made subs till quite late on in the game. And when he's done that, he hasn't really changed the game so much. Like I remember against Leeds played this like really outrageous press on us, but they made 5 subs in the game, whereas we only made sort of 2 or 3 in towards the end. And so they managed to keep the energy, not the greatest. Against Borough, we didn't make too many subs either. Maybe it is because we are starting to see injuries. What was interesting for that game is that, Castay didn't play and he put Ricardo up into attacking midfield, which I think was the right response, given that in the previous game against Leeds, Castay had a bit of a stinker. But then, when it wasn't working, maybe it was time to put him on. He did put Fatawu on, but you know what I mean? It's like, I feel like he could have gone for it a bit more sooner. And then, like even if Borough hadn't have scored, I'm not sure it looked like we were going to score either. So yeah, that's my kind of take on it. I think the next game against Watford when we return is going to be important. I think if we get back to winning ways and pick up another little streak or something like that, people will forget about it pretty quickly. But yeah, my concern is that you're starting to see like a good blueprint of how to play against us. And teams are now starting to follow that and they're getting joy. And right now we're a team that's still quite confident because we've won a lot of games. But that's the thing, as we found last season, that if your confidence starts to drop, then you can start to drop points. We'll see. But like, I've gone on this massive monologue here, by the way.
No, mate,
For me,
no, it's all good.
yeah,
You're pretty much reading my thoughts.
I thought at the start of the season, though, I thought our season would look a bit more like what Leeds and Southampton have done, which is to say that I thought that actually as far as the first 20 games would still be getting used to it, would be in the playoffs or maybe slightly outside, but you can see the improvement. And then I thought it would click and we'd go on like the sort of run that we did. So what's kind of funny is that we went on the run really early in the season, and now we've had the setback rather than the other way around, which is interesting. But let's see if we can recover from that. What I will say, though, is that Leeds and Borough are 2 of the better teams in the division. Like Borough themselves had gone on a 6-game winning run quite recently, which is one of the best in the division. And so really, other than Ipswich, those 2, if you look at the underlying data, it's pretty good. And even though we lost both games, it's not like we were completely out of them, right? They were still pretty narrow. And, maybe we could have got something on another day. But yeah, I do think that this time around there are some, room for concern. Let's see what we do it. I do think, though, that if we come back and we have more players available, that will help. I think we've really missed Wilfred and Didi. You can really see that in the last few games. But I think the other one is that we don't be able to have the same impact off the bench. Whereas earlier in the season, we were able to do that and bury teams where just like, if you can't get past them after 70 minutes, he makes 3 or 4 subs and every single player coming on is like, also a top player. And it causes them problems. So having people like Yunusak, and I mean, Casey McAteer did start, that was good. Dennis Pratt is someone who's underrated, but he maybe wasn't the best in the Premier League, but I'd imagine that at this level, he'll be way too good for championship teams. Tom Cannon is back. I don't know if we'll ever see it. To be honest with you, I don't really feel the striker is necessarily a problem because they're not getting serviced enough. So yeah, I think that will help. But I mean, at the same time, the African Cup of Nations is coming up, so we're going to lose players. So there's pros and cons to that. We'll see. So yeah, they're my kind of thoughts on things at the moment.
That's a lot to get into and a lot of things that I wanted to talk about. So that's perfect. So talking about, have we been found out, and talking about also Ndidi and almost a downtrend that I've slightly seen since the Sunderland game. How much of that is because Ndidi hasn't been playing? And B, in terms of being found out, and one thing that I've noticed that's been pretty frustrating, especially the Middlesbrough game, was when it works, it's good in terms of Kelechi Iheanacho dropping deep. But in my opinion, he was dropping way too deep that game, to the point where, like, when we're depending on our wingers who have been playing really well, and we put them to the sword and we come up the flanks, and then there's no one there, Kelechi will be so deep at some points and play a 1-2 to them. They have to drive up and wait for him to catch up. And we don't play with a at 10, we've got, a high pressing 8. And when that's Cassidy and he's not firing, if indeed he's not there, it doesn't work. A lot of people scream for a plan B. I would rather, get something right perfectly first before we worry about that. But still, do we need like a number 10 role? Could we play Casey McAteer at high pressing 8, or even replace, if indeed he's not available, let's say hypothetically, put Kalechi in that position and then have Vardy in front? These are just some things that I would wonder if they would work, because when he drops so deep like that, Kel, or even Vardy a bit, more so Kel, it can be frustrating, and it gives them, while we wait for him to get in there, if we've got no options in the box, by the time there is an option, everyone's got back and taken their shape, and it makes it much more difficult to get a goal. And you start seeing people trying to take worldies outside the box a lot more. And as for Dennis Pratt, I definitely would excited to have him back. But I'm pretty sure from what we did see of him, he was playing that Ndidi role. So that's where I think we'll see him when he comes back. And also, I don't think Fatal has been called up. So I think we're still going to hang on to him for the AFCON. And another one I want to get onto is Tom Cannon, which I definitely think we'll start to see him feature soon. And some people wanted to see him in that Middlesbrough game, but I don't know how you felt, but it felt like we were kind of not going to score. One of those frustrating games. I'm kind of actually happy he didn't play that game, get an extra 2 weeks into his legs, and maybe sub him on or even start him. But I think maybe throw him on the last 20 minutes for the Watford game.
Yeah, I think the plan with him is that if we were leading, they would have probably put him on, but because we didn't, we had to stick to trying to win the game. Yeah, there's a lot said there. I can definitely throw some comments back. So the Iheanacho one, yeah. So what Borough did is they had a player, Dale Fry, who was a centre back, but he actually man marked him everywhere. So even if Kell went as far as deep as our 18-yard line, he was right on him, and you saw that right at the start of the game. So that was a specific tactic, and I think that is why he actually started dropping deeper and deeper, because he was trying to get there and start the play. But because he had someone on him, he thought, oh, right, I've got to go even deeper to try and get this guy off him. But he wasn't staying with him. And then, the system is, though, to sort of try and draw them on so there's space behind. But it didn't really work out. But that's something that we have to watch out for, because, like I say, is that the playbook against Leicester, that you put someone on there and then, then you can kind of stop the kind of the build up, or, the facilitation of that player being able to link the play. So that's something we have to be cautious with. Yeah. And so then, as you say, so I know what you're saying with the system, then there isn't anyone to aim for. But really, like, the idea is that when we attack, we do normally get like 4 or 5 people in the box. That is part of the system to kind of attack with gusto. I think that Borough game was interesting because I think we had like quite a poor first half. A lot of people even saying that was the worst half they'd seen us play. I don't really will comment if that's true or not. I mean, maybe it was or wasn't. We didn't score, that's for sure. But then I felt like in the second half, when Fatal would come on, we had like a 15-minute period where we completely dominated the game, got on top and made our chances. We really needed to score in that period. And during that part, we did have sustained pressure. We were making a lot of chances. But then it all sort of fell away again, which is where I question the energy. The Ndidi, yeah, I think the big thing that's like overlooked is that, why I think we're missing out is that he turns the ball over high up the pitch, or he's really good with the engine. So him and KDH, because they got so much energy, they really can like dominate teams, and basically the whole team tends to play higher up the pitch when those two are in. So I think that's the thing that's lacking. It's maybe that's why, even though I've said that we could have Dennis Pratt or Cassidy, or McAteer, but I'm not sure that don't forget that Ndidi, he's like built for the English game with his physicality, right? He's tall, so he's going to win all the aerial duels. He's leggy, so he can win tackles. Engine, so he can get up and down. And actually, as we found out, his technical quality is pretty good, especially at this level. So he's turned out to be like the unexpected surprise of the season. And as I say, I think the fact that we've struggled so much about him maybe shows you how important he was to the team, even if you don't sort of notice it. Sometimes it's just more your positioning, things like that. So definitely welcome him back. But yeah, I mean, as you said, so could we play a number 10? Could we do? I mean, we could do anything, right? It's up to Enzo if he wants to do his system. Enzo. I do understand, though, what he's doing. I don't really have a problem with it, which is that I think if you've got a team and you want to play a certain way, the first thing is you've got to get really good at playing that specific way. And it means that you've got to take the pain for a long time. Like, I don't know if you do it when you play with your own team, but like, if you really try and concentrate, like, guys, we're really going to try and play one touch and short passing, you've really got to commit to it. And you might lose quite a lot of games in a row when you try it because you're not good at it. And then all of a sudden it'll click, and then it's one step back to go 2 steps forward, because then you're not just punting the ball long every time. You're actually playing and dismantling teams. So I think there's an aspect of that. And given that we're top of the table, I would say, well, therefore, why would we stop it? To be honest with you, I've got a feeling even if we were 7th place, we wouldn't change the style, because you'd still see that we're on an upward trend and it's just going to click a bit more. So I don't have a problem with him doing that. Yeah, I just think that like what we have to be careful of is if the games are going to each follow the same sort of pattern, that's where it could be a bit different. And that's where I think the concern is more coming from. So, why I think people are frustrated is they've seen this happen for quite a few years now. So Claude Puel is where it started. Whereas, yeah, you had loads of possession, sideways football. You never, though, really made that many clinical chances. And then at some point in the game, someone would make one mistake, just one mistake, but then it'd get punished. And then you've either lost the game or drawn it, and just felt frustrating. And it'd be against a team that you'd expect to beat. And, he notoriously got tonked by Crystal Palace multiple times, Claude Puel. They were his nemesis. And his final game actually was, after they destroyed us. Okay, fair enough. Brendan comes in. First couple of seasons, brilliant with Brendan. But then it started falling into a similar pattern, passing the ball a lot, but not really making so many chances. And then again, the mistake would happen. You turn it over and the opposition scores. Yeah, now that we're looking at end zone, are we thinking, oh, it's a similar sort of thing? Yeah, we keep the ball for ages. Yeah, we play up through and it looks great. But what do we do with it if it's not kind of going into goals? Whereas, like I say, you can be a bit more aggressive. You can put more crosses in. As we've discussed many times, the reason he doesn't do that is that style. Like, it's funny because like Pep, even though Pep's teams score so many, he actually says that he's like the most defensive manager in world football, because basically he's trying to control the game so much that, like, I don't know if you've ever played like 9-ball pool, but in 9-ball pool, if you win the frame, you start the next one. So you can actually have a game where like you beat the opponent 10-0 and they never had a shot. And it's like, for all I know, you could be the greatest pool player the world's ever seen. So I don't want to find out. I'm just going to make it so that, you just don't get a chance to play the game. And that is sort of like the Pep style. And I feel that is what he is trying to do. Now, with a team that's just learning it, that's kind of where we're not so good, right? You still notice there's only been a handful of games I can really think of where I felt we've just completely and utterly controlled the game almost from start to finish, and their opposition. Like, to be honest with you, that's probably the Preston and the Sunderland games, or not Sunderland, sorry, Stoke. Although even though they had some minor chances, but to be honest with you, in those games, like I think one of them, the XG for the other team was like 0.02 or something ridiculous like that. So, that's about as dominant as you can get. And it's like, once you've built that foundation, you could then maybe work a bit more on the attack. So that's where we'll see. But, I do think there are some things that I do really like about Enzo. So I criticize his game management, which is true. But what I like about him is that I feel that post-match, he normally gives quite an accurate assessment of what the game is. And I also think he's made changes that are logical, but previous managers wouldn't make. So, yeah, for that Borough game, some people were saying, well, Cassidy just hasn't done it. He's the weak spot. But then people were saying, yeah, but who can we play in that position? We'd have to play Ricardo up there or something. And that's what he did. He put Hamza in and he put Ricardo there and he took him out. And I was like, well, that's pretty good. That's a good manager. It's like, he might say one thing, but he knows that is, he wants to get the points. This is a good team. That's what he's got to do. So that's good to see. And he has said quite a few times that like he's willing to look for, he knows that we're going to need new solutions as people start doing tactics and things like that. So I think he's a smart guy. And I think if there was like a crisis or something like that, he would try something else and try to get it going. But yeah, I do think that like the lack of goal threat, given how much forward quality we've got, is a concern, because like there's no other team in the Championship, maybe with the exception of Leeds, I think even they, who would be like, they'd be looking at some of our players and thinking, geez, you've got Vardy and Iheanacho in the team. They don't even use Daka. This team has got quality up there. They should be scoring goals. Like, yeah, maybe they could be letting a few in the other end, but they should definitely be scoring. So let's see if we can get back to that. And we'll find out quite soon, I imagine.
Yeah, I see what you're saying as well, and like also like I think all three of our losses have all in the same score. We've lost just one goal, so we haven't seen us get an absolute tanking
Yeah,
yet. And
exactly.
we, and in a lot of our games, we also average above at least 60% possession. And in terms of game management, up until that game, I thought I've been crediting and like singing his praises for his game management. And I think for that game, like a lot of the players that we have seen like for like substituted, whether it be Eunice or Castanet for Ndidi or vice versa, Kalechi for Vardy, again, vice versa. It's been the same kind of subs, and that leads perfectly into what I was going to mention just in a second. But as for that, I thought Fatawi made a big difference when he came on. But he took way too long to like bring. That was very Rogers-esque, bringing on Vardy with like 6 minutes to go. Like that's what Rogers used to do with Daka, and it would freak me out. But
yeah, it's
what
pointless at that point, really, unless you're going to put
it's
two up there. You got to make it much sooner than that, the change.
Yeah, exactly. And there was a little indecisive for the Leeds game. I kind of gave him a little bit of a pass. It's like, look, this is our most challenging game, and if he's got people he can rely on, I can kind of understand. But I think that dragged on to the next game. Now, what happens? There's no one that can replace, in my opinion, Harry Winks. Do we possibly see if indeed he comes back, go back to his usual six role? It's not the same as how Winks plays, but maybe he doesn't get put back on as a high pressing eight. Maybe indeed he covers that role for a week for Harry Winks. I don't know, but I tell you one thing, I have no idea who can do that role
Yeah,
because he's out.
he has mentioned it. Oh, is he out of a booking? Is he?
Yeah, he got his fifth yellow, mate. So when we play Watford, no
Oh,
Harry Winks. That's where
yeah.
we could get
Okay.
found out, mate.
Yeah, definitely. Well, to be honest with you, I think he'll play Chowdhury and Ricardo together then. I don't expect us to be as good, but it might be good enough. I know Hamza gave away the foul for the free kick, but it was a great free kick. And I actually thought prior to that Hamza was playing quite well, to be honest with you. I actually think low key, he's had quite an impressive season because he's always been criticised for not being that good on the ball. But every time I've seen him play, he's been very good on the ball, I would say. He's turning, he's not really giving it away. He's been making a lot of good tackles. Yeah, I know you're concerned. I think everyone agrees. Harry Winks, there's an argument to say he's the best player in the entire division. You really could make that argument. But I think that at this level, you don't need everyone to be as good as he is. I think if we're in the Premier League, him being out will be a huge concern. And that is something they might look to rectify if we get back up there. When we get back up there, see how confident we are. I think here, though, yeah, look, don't get me wrong. I think teams definitely, that's part of the blueprint. They target those two players to try and rob them of the ball. But it's not like they're completely clueless with it. So but yeah, I do remember pre-season he said that Wilfred or Hamza could also play in that position if we needed to do it. But obviously Wings is a step above. So yeah, maybe he might do it. But to be honest with you, I think given that 8 position looks like the one that we're struggling more, I think he would be restored to that position. Because I've also noticed in terms of game management, in the games where he has turned it, what he's done is he's brought on KDH and Ndidi on together as the 8s. And we've won a lot of games when those two combined have come on. And so I think that is the impact that they're having. That would be my speculation, though, but we might see something different.
Yeah, he keeps us guessing a little bit, Enzo. So I'm not too worried. I am very curious though because we have got. I think Pratt's going to be available, Cannon available, and then also we got Indeed as well. So we've got a lot of people coming in. So it's be interesting to see how we shape up against Watford. And in terms for Chowdhury, I actually really agree. I think he's been kind of an unsung hero. He doesn't have the same ball quality going forward as Ricardo, but he's been reliable. And he had to put that challenge in. If that free kick didn't go in, what a free kick it was from Greenwood, I thought that it would have been a great, could have saved us a goal. And that was all, I think, from a back heel from Vestergaard, that goal. So it's that whole play, sorry. So I would rather though have Ricardo in that role and then have Chowdhury play as that Winks role. I don't know about yourself, but yeah.
Well, let's see. Give people a chance. It's still a new system, so we haven't seen Wilfred play in that position. So we don't know. Maybe he'd be decent at it. Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe it does require someone else. Maybe we'll put a different player in there. Ricardo's done really well in that role, and it's not a role that he's done before. So if you look at Ricky, he's played now both right back, left back, a CDM, and an attacking midfielder already this season. So it's kind of crazy.
It is. It's like, yeah, it's like, and just quickly, sorry, I just forgot. I want to mention one thing in terms of keeping control. You said a while ago, I just completely forgot to answer you about how we like to keep control of the ball, so we never find out about how good they are. Yeah, I think you're seeing that a lot with a lot of people now going for like a sweeper keeper as well, kind of having that extra amount of defense. We're seeing like a lot of teams doing that. Like, look at is Ramsdale not really getting much games at Arsenal now, having Raya in as that sweeper keeper, and I think that's how you pronounce it. Um, it's crazy seeing how like a lot of people are like changing how they play games, and we keep seeing comparisons between Enzo and Pep, obviously because he'd done his time under him, but you do see those quite a lot and playing people out of position. You know, Venditti, you see it with Stones playing as a out of position as well at Man City. So we'll wrap it up here shortly. Anil, how do you feel about Watford? I don't think there's any reason to panic so much just yet. Like you said, I think Middlesbrough's a good team. Leeds is a good team. We did a lot better than we first started. We thought we are going to hit, it was going to click a lot later. We have still got quite a brand new team that are we a victim of our own success? Did we start too good? And now we've become the Man City fans of the Championship League, having a meltdown. We lose one game.
Yeah, I think there could be an element of that. I think the problem is that there is pressure on us. Like, to be honest with you, I thought the Borough game was big. I was really hoping we'd win it just because you want to bounce back from a defeat with a win, and then it's just a minor thing. But it's like when you do back-to-back defeats, it's like, oh, hang on a minute, is the Championship opening up? Teams all of a sudden will fancy it. They'll give you more of a thing. So we'll have to see. The fact is that we are a little bit weaker at home than away, bizarrely, because teams tend to sit in and make us do the work. And as I said, the thing that we're struggling with is to score goals. So, there is potential for it to go pear-shaped. I don't know. We'll have to see where it goes. If we play at our best, we should beat any single team in this division. I think we start every single game, regardless of if it's home or away, as strong favourites. So we should really be beating them. But lads have got to turn up and put in a performance. And yeah, actually, there's one thing that I forgot to mention with like the game management. But for example, I think one thing that was frustrating is that Mavididi, after he missed his chance, he clearly lost his head and he just had a really poor game. I mean, to be honest, he was playing quite badly even before that. But afterwards, I've never seen a player that needed to be subbed more, even just for his own benefit. It's like it happens. It's a bit like having the red mist when you play football. Just for whatever reason, mentally you're not there. You need to put someone else in to get the job done. But Enzo left him on for the whole game. So that's the thing is we need our players on it and to be mentally right. I hope we will. Let's see where it is. I don't know too much. I think they've been okay last couple of games now, Watford. They're having a bit of an inconsistent season. So it's really hard to see what kind of team will turn up and what system they'll play, if they'll just park the bus or they'll try and have a go. I suspect they won't try and have a go quite as much as other teams, though. So I think we should have enough in the locker to beat them.
I think they just put 5 past, I think it was Rotherham. So...
Well, but they just sacked their manager. So, that's like a more difficult one to sort of say. But they'll be confident, to be fair.
It's just quickly before, I just actually forgot to touch on this. Mavididi has frustrated me a lot because I quite like him to begin, and like he's really good at skipping past his man down the wing. He's really good at like attacking his fullbacks, but sometimes his final product can be quite frustrating. And I'm now starting to see his stats before the game, before he joined us, now why they weren't that amazing. Maybe if we do go up, is he Premier League quality? I'm not sure, but I definitely 100% agree he needed to come off, and he frustrated me a lot that game. But I don't know. He started so red hot, and then he's kind of got a bit stagnant.
I think he's an indifferent signing. I mean, I think he's what people suspected. He'd probably be good for the Championship, but I definitely don't see a Premier League player in there. That's for sure. And you can probably see, why his goals and assists over the last few seasons hasn't been that high. He's definitely someone that's got tons of talent. He's got the pace, the physicality, but he's not really contributing enough, I think. And even though, like I say, in the QPR game, he got a goal and an assist, but a goal was a deflection and the assist was passing it to Harry Winks, who smashed it from 30 yards. So it's not like it's an incredible assist, right? It's like the other guy's done all the work. So we'll have to see. I mean, you've said a few times, do you think we'll see anyone in January? That would actually be the position I could see us strengthening, the left side, not the right. because I think he could do with someone breathing down his neck to try and boost his performance or to give us another option. We'll have to see. Yeah, I think he's been quite frustrating, to be honest with you. We played a fair amount for someone like him, and plus he's wearing the 10. The last number 10 we had was James Maddison. I'm not expecting someone to be as good as that, but he's a long way short of it, isn't he? When we're used to seeing, you know, at least with Winks is wearing Tielemans' number, but if anything, he's having a better season than Tielemans had last year. So, you know, that's good to see. But yeah, I think he does need to improve it.
That, and I'll finish it with this. I would also like to see Conor Cody get his start soon, because we really thought he was coming for Vestergaard, but for me, Wout Faes has been a little difficult and hard to watch. Thanks heaps for coming on, Anil, mate. I really appreciate it. You're like carrying my half my channel here, mate. Always appreciate your feedback and all your comments and analysis. Guys, thank you. If you're watching this in playback, give a shout out to Anil. He always drops knowledge. And like and subscribe if you like this video. Thank you, guys.